Hi everybody, welcome to the Physics 2 laboratory. We're looking at magnetic fields today. We're going to map those magnetic fields qualitatively as well as quantitatively. So what I'd like to do to get started, you've got the power supply and the voltmeter in the scene here. Those two are familiar to you guys already. And I'd also like to bring up graphical analysis so that we've got a way to collect data from the magnetic field probes. Now our magnetic field probes are these little guys. These wireless sensors will stream data to graphical analysis so that we can take the measurements wirelessly. So I need to turn that on. I just press the button here until I see the red light is flashing. I think the red light is flashing. Yes, excellent. And now, when I look at graphical analysis, I can click on sensor data collection. And up pops my sensor right here. It's called GDX3MG. That's the product name. And I'm going to connect to that device. Good. So now I see that it's connected, and I have some options here. We've got different sensor channels, X, Y, and Z components of magnetic field, as well as larger amplitude components of magnetic field. Now, we won't need to use that up to 130 millitesla. Our magnetic fields are typically going to be around below 5 millitesla for these experiments. So we won't need the higher magnetic field measurements today. The other question is, do we want the 3 dimensions? And I would say let's not use that because we're looking at the magnetic field along the axis of our Helmholtz coils back here. So right down the middle of them, you can see this little ruler down here. That's where we're going to make our measurements, down the center, down the axis. And the X direction is coming right out of the probe at the end of the tip here. So that's the X direction. There's a little dot on the side that's marked with a Y. The dot is where the probe sensor is actually located, just a few millimeters behind the tip. So that's the Y direction, and then the Z direction is coming out perpendicular to this top face. So it's a 3-axis probe. We're only going to use the X magnetic field. So I click Done. And now I see that I can make measurements of the X magnetic field as a function of time. But I'd really like to do this as a function of position along the ruler as I go backwards, or as I go back along the axis of this thing. So I go down to these data collection settings down here, and instead of a time-based measurement, we're going to switch that to event-based. Okay, so now the options come up. We're going to have events with entry. That entry will allow me to just input the position, say the number of centimeters along the ruler for each of the data points that I want to take. And so let's say the units are in centimeters, for example, here, and we might say position is my event name. Okay. So we could do a little averaging of the sensor reading over 10 seconds. You may want to try that. There's usually some fluctuation in these. Now, if you're curious about how much fluctuation there is, go ahead and do a time-based measurement and see what the noise in the signal looks like. But when you come back to do an event-based measurement, you can check that box if you want to. Okay, so here, we're looking at now magnetic field as a function of position. Just a generic axis right now is located here, and there's my data set. So what we need to do is hit collect. And now I've placed this along the axis at some point where I want to take the measurement. But let me first make sure that I have all the stuff that I need here. You notice my power is not on yet, so I'm going to turn that on. And I want to make sure that my current as read by this multimeter here, is 2 amps or less. So you and your group can decide what current you want to send through the coil. You'll send the same current through the left coil as the right coil. And then when you add both together, be sure to adjust the voltage so that you still get that current that you've decided on. So I'm running here with roughly 2 amps through the left coil as the camera might look at it. The one furthest away from the camera here. And let's see, I'll place my probe so that the dot is over the 16 centimeter position. That might be a place where I might want to take data. So then I hit the number or the button here, keep, and it gives me a data point for that position. So I'm going to type in 16, and it's read off the magnetic field for me, 0.37 millitesla. So and I choose to keep that point, and there it is. Now I can move this to the next point that I want to take data. For this purposes of discussion here, I just went to 18, and I tap keep. Choose 18 centimeters, and now I've got 2 data points. But I could continue on taking data through the entire axis of these coils. This one's at 20. Place that over the 22, hit keep, and then I type in my position. And it slowly builds up this data table as well as the graph. And that's how we're going to collect data along the axis of these